John Samuel, the host of All Access with John Samuel, the show where we share the stories of entrepreneurs, advocates, and leaders who are improving the lives for people of all abilities. And today we have a special guest with my friend Shireen Hafeez, who is the founder of Deaf Kids Code. She and I met through our mutual friend, Lori Samuels, and I'm super excited to have her here today and share her story. So thank you, Shireen, for being here.
Thank you for having me, John.
Uh, it's so great. You and I have been connected, I think, for over a year or two now through Lori, who is just a wonderful person who's been on this show with me before. And so, one, how did you meet Lori, first of all?
Random.
Really?
I randomly met her on LinkedIn. I was very curious at her job title because she's in the blind accessibility space. And at that time she was with Microsoft.
Yeah.
So she piqued my interest by virtue of her expertise. And I was just very curious about her. And we just evolved from there. I reached out to her, and she's the mother of a child with a disability, and we bonded on that level, but also very rooted in our mutual interest and care for accessibility and disability rights. And that's how the relationship began. And it's really interesting because she's on our advisory board.
Yeah.
She's the only one that has no connection to the deaf or hard of hearing space. Actually, all our other
Really?
board members are deaf and hard of hearing professionals, or have like a very deep connection in some way, shape, or form to the community. So she's special for sure.
No, I agree. She definitely is special. She's been a mentor to me. She's really guided me through my entire journey in the accessibility space, and I owe a lot to her and everything that she does. And she's awesome. So I'm glad that we're both. She's working with both of our organizations because we need we need advocates and leaders like her who may not be connected to our communities, but just want to make a difference for everyone. So it's super cool.
Yeah.
But kind of going back to the Deaf Kids Code and this organization. I mean, could you just give a little bit of background on what Deaf Kids Code does, and then also kind of what are you working on right now?
Oh, there's a lot to tell.
I
Oh,
know.
please. Where do we begin? So the idea for Deaf Kids Code actually existed 4 years before I ever did our first program, because to me it was such a logical great equalizer. The world that we're emerging into, this generation that's born into the digital age, it just seems so logical that surely someone in the United States of America would launch an initiative of this nature for this population. And 4 years later, as my son started reaching puberty, I decided the sense of urgency was now. And so I launched Deaf Kids Code. We did our first programming at the John Powers Center in Illinois. And really, it was the most profound experience of my life that has ever since then, has just fueled my fire to remain steadfast on this mission. So we promote computer science, design thinking, and technology skills. And pre-pandemic, the bulk of our effort was targeted towards middle schoolers and high schoolers.
Yeah.
And, we have done programming in, I've lost count actually of how many locations around the country we have hosted programming, thousands of children. Um, it's really incredible because when we started this grassroots effort, the organization was self-funded
Yeah.
by me.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, you know, and um, and the demand to scale happened organically, where one school in the Southeast had a colleague in Indiana whose students experienced our programming, and it just like snowballed from there. Just further legitimizing the uh, the mission, to say the least.
Yeah.
And and the rippling effects that it's had since then has been really, really incredible. I mean, I have a teacher that put herself through a coding boot camp after this, started teaching coding to her students after our experience, and
Yeah.
now has launched her own ed tech startup from that experience. We have
Wow.
schools that have started integrating robotics. We have schools that have developed maker spaces.
Yep.
We have students that now have aspired to do much more with their lives and careers that they had not imagined, before. So really, all the kids that we work with are our kids. At least for me, it's very personal that all these kids um, should have the privilege of this experience and the ability to cultivate bigger, larger aspirations in contributing to our world, not just as users of technology, but as creators, innovators, and leaders.
Oh, that's awesome. No, I mean, you're right. You're right. I mean, I love that you've touched so many kids, and I love the fact that you don't. There's so many programs you don't even you've lost count. That's like a
I've
dream of
lost
mine. That,
count.
right? That
There's
is.
too much to remember, John.
That is, but that's awesome. That's what we're all striving for, right? Specifically in what we're trying to do, right? Trying to improve the lives for, our groups, our constituents, right? And that's something that it's really important. And the fact that people are taking your program and then building on top of it, which is even
Yes.
better, right? That's how we're going to scale, and that's how we're going to grow, and that's where we're going to touch more lives. And I mean, just hearing you, my head started just like the wheels in my head were just starting to spin. Like, oh yeah, it's a really great, great idea. That's great because one of the things you mentioned was a makerspace, and I'm super. I think it's really cool. I just did a conversation at NC State University here in Raleigh. The library's makerspace had me come and speak there, and I love what they're doing there. So very cool that your schools are actually now going into different things like robotics and the makerspace and things like that. So right now, I mean, you've done a really great job of building out some amazing partnerships, and it's something that I at Abler, where I've been really kind of trying to follow your lead in this way, because you've really grown your organization through partnerships. So can you talk about any cool partnerships you're working on right now?
There are so many incredible. So the thing is that one of the things that we honor is the fact that we're not going to be masters of the universe with everything. And especially when you are a modestly funded nonprofit organization, you know, um, the ability to impact really matters tremendously on the kind of partnerships and um, and supports that you have. So so we've done programs with Amazon, we've done programs with Dell, we've done programs with with Microsoft. Uh, we launched an initiative with Khan Academy where we were um, given the rights to make their content ASL accessible. And
Fantastic.
and that's when I looped in the National Technical Institute for the Deaf, who has been a long time standing partner with us, vouching for what we do. And we have actually become a resource for them, where we then, went in a NSF grant and I handed it off to them. And our first launch of the Khan Academy, we flew in uh, half a dozen deaf math educators from around the country. and, started, creating the content.
Yeah.
Another partnership that we sealed was with CompTIA, and now NTID is now going to be providing A+ certifications through like a boot camp style. Now we're working with AWS in making those certifications and helping people. So I do want to say that, of course, we're in a pandemic.
Yeah.
So we have had to pivot drastically with what we do, which was our flagship programming that we did pre-pandemic was all hands-on interactive learning,
Yeah.
so we had to shift, drastically, but remain steadfast in being impactful. So what we did was we took our makerspace model and we created innovation kits that we've mailed out. We've mailed out, my gosh, hundreds of innovation kits to students and educators around the country, and have provided virtual lessons that way.
That's
We've
awesome.
done some live interactive coding lessons, um, a lot of other like smaller series and things like, we've partnered with the American Society for Deaf Children. Um, just, this it's just this whole gamut of various partnerships. And, we're one of our virtues is that we're very flexible.
Yeah.
We're very agile. Like we try to adjust and fit and modify based on the nature of whatever it is that we're working with or what we're doing. So we're doing a program that is for Missouri residents with launch code and a new organization called Eagles Way, helping to build out that tech eco pipeline. Um, I mean, there's just so much. Even in my own state of Indiana, we have a collaboration with Cook Biotech where they're actually creating an internship program specifically for deaf high schoolers and those that have transitioned out. There's so much, it's just, but it's all like just amazing stuff. I think that the buy-in is that, what we're doing is not a gimmick.
Yeah.
It's real. It's that, when we're engaging in conversations with companies and potential partners, I'm always looking for how can we come to a yes. Don't just say no, we've never done anything like that. That way, that just sounds, I'm always looking for how can we come to a yes.
Yeah.
What would that look like in whatever way, shape, or form? And and we don't even actively solicit sponsorships or funding from any of these companies. Our own, the sole supporter of our organization, grant supporter, is Dell. We've had smaller grants
Yeah.
through community partners like Infosys and other companies like that. But Dell is the reason that we are alive and well, and that we're able to still do the good work that we do. So it's not like corporations are throwing money at our feet to scale,
Yeah.
and as a result of that, we've had to become very, very resourceful. Where if it's a choice between, giving financial support or actually creating an experience that's going to benefit our population, I will always vouch for the experience, because we know, and I know
Yeah.
that you can't throw money at the equity problem. Money alone does not solve, the disparities in communities. People have to get in the trenches and they have to sincerely make effort. You can't just write a check and think that you're writing off an issue,
Yep.
and especially when it comes to disabilities, which is such a unique space, that the only way to change the narrative is by providing immersive experiences to companies so that they can now say, yeah, we had a teen and tech day at our company and it was incredible. And these students are, just dynamite. and we should be doing more to invest. But it's hard to evangelize it in the other order, because if you haven't had experience with someone with low vision, or who are blind, or who are deaf or hard of hearing, or that are autistic or neurodiverse, on and on and on, you can talk all day till you're blue, but really fundamentally those experiences are where the catalyst towards change actually happens.
Yeah, no, it goes back to this phrase that I always use: proximity builds empathy, right? And so we need to have that, and it's a two-way interaction because uh, folks without disabilities need to be exposed to people with disabilities, and in the workplace we need to give those experiences for students and potential candidates with disabilities to get that interaction with non-disabled individuals, so that yeah, they can have that. It's a two-way learning that they need to have, and that's how we break down those barriers. And there's something that you talked about Khan Academy that kind of have to go back to, because you know I when I was in grad school, I struggled to see what was going on in class, and I couldn't explain. Professors didn't understand that at the time I hadn't openly disclosed my vision loss. They knew I was I needed accommodations, but the professors just didn't know how to help me because I wasn't using a screen reader, and I was trying to look at things. And would I taught myself statistics going on to Khan Academy. And so, making that accessible for individuals who are deaf and hard of hearing is critically important, and super cool. And now I have two kids of my own who are 4 and 2, and they're on Kitty Academy, or the Khan Academy for little kids, and they're on it all the time. And I'm glad that you're doing it to make it much more accessible for everyone. But that also ties into, uh, you have a son of your own. You kind of talked about it, but could you share a little bit about Zane, and kind of, what's he, he's kind of the catalyst for this organization, and kind of what's he up to, and what's he wanting to do?
He is, my son is just so incredible that he is actually someone that I admire the most in this world. Because when you look at where we started in this journey, where he had no language at the age of 4, couldn't be graphed on like any assessment tests. He was a late diagnosis that we didn't realize that he had severe hearing loss. Um, to then, uh, today being the anniversary of like when, we had started lobbying the legislature for an insurance mandate to cover hearing aids for babies and children. And he wrote his own speeches. He testified in front of the House and Senate committee. He wouldn't even let me read his speech. This is a kid that's,
Wow.
that's like so young. He was like, gosh, it was in 2014, and he's 16 years old now.
Oh,
I
so he's
mean,
only
it's
9 years
just,
old. Wow.
yeah, he
Okay.
was like 9 years old. And, and now, he's competing academically in a mainstream high school, one of the most competitive academically high schools in the state, nose to nose with his peers. And the reason he's young for his grade is because we wanted to give him that extra cushion in case he needed to repeat a grade.
Wow.
And not only did he not need to repeat a grade, he's competing with kids that have had no marks against them, that have never had to struggle about anything. And, now he's aspiring to become an astrophysicist. And it's incredible. I mean, if you had told the mother in me when he was 7 that this is where we would land, I never would have believed it. I still screenshot his grades to his therapists, that worked with him, and saying, can you, and even his audiologist, and I'm like, can you imagine? Like, this is, this is our kid. Because it took a village. It
Yeah.
takes a village to raise a child, and it's just, and the only thing that bothers me is that, when he's doing well and he's competing, Um, I think that most of his teachers and the institution where he learns from have no idea that this kid is running on 1,000 more cylinders than the rest. You know, they don't appreciate that the amount of grit and witherall that goes into competing, when you're the only, deaf kid in your school. They just take it for granted that somehow, they just bypass it, which is not a bad thing. It's a disability you don't see,
Yep.
but it's still, it still is humbling, and I think that they just don't understand. And someday when he's looking for employment, they will not understand that what mountains this human had to move and what obstacles and hellfire he had to walk through to make it to this point in his life. And it's not just him, right? It's like this goes across all people that
Yep.
are persevering with disabilities in their life, and people take it for granted that they just somehow, it's like they have no idea that you have to walk through ashes, and the cracks, and how easy it is to fall through the cracks, that that it's like this marvel to not just survive, but it's a marvel to thrive, and to find your way. And that's why I always say that there is no greater innovator and no greater problem solver than folks like you and him. There is these are things you can't teach in school, that you can't measure on a standardized test. This is
Yeah.
something that is innate and primal, because from birth on, this is how you've had to navigate in an inaccessible world, a world that isn't bending towards accessibility. So it will never cease to astonish me.
Yeah. No, you're right. And I think that with you, Lori, myself, and the others who are working towards this greater inclusion and equity, we're going to, my hope is that by the time that Zane is an astrophysicist, we will break down a lot of those barriers. And I know that not all companies are going to see the value of what Zane and myself and people like us have to go through on a daily basis. But the good ones are going to realize that these are the problem solvers you want on your team. And these are the people who are going to take your company to the next level. And I think that's what we're there. That's what we're doing, right? And I think that, you know, Shireen, I got chills just hearing you talk. And I am just so thankful for you to share this with me. And I am so excited. And I'm so excited for us to go and to take on the world together. So thank you.
John, it the emotions run high in me, as you can tell. You know, I mean, there's no way that, I mean, I was like sitting down calculating how many hours of my life that I've dedicated to this cause, that I volunteered my life literally for this. And it was something like a hair raising, like, you know, over 40,000 plus hours. I mean, this is all I do. It's what I think about when I go to sleep, and it's what I think about when I wake up. It's what I think about when I'm binge watching Netflix. I mean, it is my only reason for being on this earth, and I think that, I mean, you have a mother that raised you, and I have no doubt that she had the fire burning in her as much as I have that inferno in me. And you are the embodiment of that heart and soul, that she put in to making you, who to helping you cultivate the best version of you so you could reach your full potentiality. And it's the same for me, and it's the same for hundreds of thousands of other parents that are walking this earth today, that just want their kids to have a chance to contribute to this world in a meaningful way. I don't think we're asking for a lot, but being in this space, you realize that, that with, that maybe we are, I, the fact that there is resistance for society to bend is what only pushes me onward. It doesn't make me back down, and it doesn't make me modify anything. If anything, it only further fuels my desire to make things better.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Thank you so much, Shireen. And
Oh,
thank you.
it's like I'm the mother, and then you're on the other side of it, and now you're a father too. So we share in that. It's like our children are our lives, but then, and that's how it started. But now, like, all the children are mine. All these
Yeah.
children are mine. Every single one of these kids, whatever time I have with them, however short it is, they're all mine.
Yeah.
They're all mine. They all belong to me, and I would lay on the tracks for any of them to have a shot in life.
Well, our community, the disability community as a whole, we're lucky to have you on our side. So thank you. And
An ally till I die, John.
love it. Love it. Well, awesome. Well, thank you again, Shireen. This has been you caused a lot of emotions to flare up, and you got me a lot of thinking, and I think that's what these discussions are supposed to be. So thank you again for taking the time, and and uh and I can't wait to do this together.
I can't wait till we meet someday soon,
Yes.
hopefully. But
I'm gonna
thank
give
you
you a big
so
hug.
much for having me on your show.
Thank you.
I am with you, John. Thank you.
Thank you.